Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opatz, and today we're going to do a video on running backs for week 3 in the NFL. We're going to go over their matchups, talk about who we like in that RB1 and RB2 spot, and then discuss in more detail what that flex position might look like. We're going to go through 36 running backs and really try to cover everything for you guys. But if there's something I miss, you just think that I'm incorrect in one of my takes or where I have someone slotted, please comment that down below. Ask questions down below as well so that I can get to those answers for you. And without further ado, let's get into RB rankings. Now we're just going to briefly go over some of the top guys, the studs that you know you're starting. I don't want to waste your time with people you already are going to have in your lineups. We have Run CMC, Christian McCaffrey at number 1. He has a great matchup against Houston this week. Obviously RB1 overall upside, and he could really go off in this game. At number 2, Dalvin Cook. He's got Seattle this week. Seattle giving up the second most rushing yards a game this season. They just gave up 180 to King Henry last week. I really like Cook as long as he is healthy. For the third spot, it's none other than Derrick Henry himself. He gets Indianapolis. Now, they do have a really good defensive line, but I am not worried about it. He's going to get his touches. He's going to produce. At the fourth spot, maybe a little surprise. I like him just that much this week against Kansas City. That would be one Austin Eckler. He looked a lot better last week, specifically catching the ball out of the backfield with those 9 targets and receptions. The Kansas City defense, guys, against the run is the worst in the league right now, so I really expect Eckler to go off. I think he could have the number 1 week for running backs himself. At number 5, it's Aaron Jones. He had a monster week Monday night against the Lions, and I think he's going to carry that momentum this week against San Francisco. Now at 6, I have Nick Chubb, and I do have slight concerns because they do face a fairly good Bears defense, but I just think his overall volume, the production he's already had coming into this week will carry him through. You are starting him and you are not worried about it. And at number 7, we have Jonathan Taylor. He goes on the road to Tennessee this week. The Titans held Chris Carson to just 31 yards on the ground last week, and so there's a little concern that he may be stuffed. However, we know he adds value through the air. He's consistently seeing targets. Carson Wentz loves him as a safety valve. He'll probably see between 6 and 8 targets, and so that boosts his value and lowers my concern. At number 8, it's Zeke Elliott. Now, he did have 97 total yards and a touchdown last week. He is losing a little bit of work in the air to Tony Pollard. However, Elliott is still getting 15 and a half touches a game, so you love to see the volume, and the Eagles are far more susceptible on the ground than they are through the air. So I expect Dallas to lean on Zeke a little bit more in this game, and I expect him to produce RB1 numbers. At number 9, we have Joe Mixon. Now, I do not love this matchup, guys. He does have to go on the road to Heinz Field and play the Steelers. However, what I do love are his touches. 49 carries, 196 yards so far in the season. He also has caught all 5 of his targets, and so you love to see that volume. The other thing going for his advantage in this game is that TJ Watt, the stud defensive end for Pittsburgh, is possibly not going to play in this game, and if he doesn't, I love Mixon all the more. I think that he's going to probably fall into the end zone once in this game, and the volume is going to give him enough yardage to make him a solid lower end RB1 start. Rounding out the top 10, and I'll be completely honest, guys, I was a little bit hesitant to put him here because he hasn't produced at this level yet, but I just got a gut feeling this is the week he kind of breaks out. That's going to be Najee Harris for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's at home against Cincinnati, and even though Cincinnati looked pretty solid against the run last week, holding David Montgomery to only 61 yards on 20 carries. I just got that gut feeling that this is the week Harris turns it on. He does get some work in the passing game, which helps him out. He's averaging 4 targets a game there. I think he can do some damage there this week. And he still has 26 carries for 83 yards on the season. So 13 carries a game plus those 4 targets a game. You love those 17 touches that he is seeing. And then on the other end of the spectrum in the passing game, Big Ben is potentially banged up in this game. So I think that gives a way to leading into even more touches for Najee Harris. At 11, and it might be too high for him, but I couldn't make myself drop him any lower. That's going to be Alvin Kamara. Now, he had a absolutely horrendous week last week with only 30 yards of total offense. He gets New England in this game on the road, so you don't love the matchup, but I just think they're going to try to recommit to him. He was only targeted and had 10 total touches in the week against Carolina. I think that that increases significantly, and if he doesn't produce in this game, maybe we start really moving him down to that low RB2 flex range. I'm going to have confidence in him for maybe one more week, see what he can do, but I think he bounces back. Owners, do not panic quite yet. Rely on him for one more week, and if he can't do it this week, or at least a little bit, then we'll talk when we get to week 4. The 12th running back on my list is David Montgomery, and it is all about volume for him. He does face the Cleveland Browns, who are a top 10 run defense, so you don't love that. But volume keeps Monty in the high-end RB2 conversation. He's averaging 20 touches a game. You can't ask for much more than that. And he gets an overall boost because Justin Fields, the rookie, makes his first NFL start. I think that there's a chance that Monty loses some touchdown opportunity, but I also think for his overall production, this is only going to help him. At number 13, we have Chris Carson. Now, he struggled last week against the Tennessee Titans, being held to just 31 yards, but he has a great opportunity to bounce back this week against a bottom 12 rushing defense, that being Minnesota, so I think that he does just that. I like him as a high-end RB2. Start him with confidence. At 14, it's Antonio Gibson. Now, he does have a tough matchup. They go on the road at Buffalo. Buffalo allowing just 73 rushing yards a game to opponents. However, we love to see the touches that Gibson is getting. He's averaging 19 touches a game. And so I think with that volume and also the fact that he has yet to score a touchdown and he is due for one makes him just enough to get him into that high RB2 conversation. I also think that with Taylor Heineke back there, they're not going to want to air it out a ton, which makes them rely more on Antonio Gibson and like him a little bit more. Little surprise for you guys, all the way up at number 15, and it's the undrafted rookie, Tyson Williams for the Baltimore Ravens. He gets an absolutely fantastic matchup on the road against Detroit. This man is averaging 6.5 yards a carry on 13 carries a game. He's also getting 3 targets in the passing game, guys. So with 16 touches on average and a great matchup against Detroit, I think this is a possible boom game for him. It would not surprise me if he went over 100 yards. Possibly got in the end zone as well. I love his upside. I am confident starting him as a high-end RB2. I have him ahead of a guy like Saquon Barkley, who I have sliding in at 16, and that is because of the concerns about his workload, right? We've seen them managing it in New York, and even though he gets an Atlanta defense that is the perfect get-right game for him, being a bottom 10 run defense team, I just don't expect a ton of touches. So I think we temper expectations still on him. I still like him on that mid-range RB2 scale, but I don't love Saquon. At number 17, I have Damian Harris. He gets New Orleans this week, and I really like him for a couple of reasons, guys. Number one, we know that New England is going to take the ball out of Mac Jones' hands. They want to pound the rock as much as they can, and Damian Harris is the guy to do that. He's averaging 16 carries a game. He had an absolutely monster run last week against the Jets from 26 yards out, where he rumbled into the end zone. If you haven't seen that yet, stop this video, go watch it, come back, because it was highlight reel material. It's the best beast mode run I've seen in a long time, and it was a beauty. And I just really think that they are going to pound the rock in this game, and it's going to be on the back of Damian Harris. At 18, a guy that we haven't heard much from or about so far this year, that is one James Robinson. I expect him to have a decent game here against Arizona for a couple reasons. I think the Arizona run defense is below average, right? They're giving up 130 yards or more a game so far in this season, and James Robinson is in a spot where he needs to rebound quickly, guys, because he has struggled. I think this is the game where he does it. Clyde Edwards-Helaire continues his fall from grace. I have him ranked 19th against the Chargers, and it's not because of what he's done in the field so far this season. More so, it is the lack of run-stopping ability from the Chargers defense. They are right now a bottom 3 run defense. They gave up over 200 yards last week against the Cowboys. And really, guys, this might be the last chance for CEH, at least for me, to prove he's worth being in my lineup, because if he can't do it against this team, when is he going to do it? We've seen him struggle in both the running and the passing game. And I just have a feeling that this is the game that he bounces back at least a little bit. I'm not super confident in him, but I also think that he can still produce as a low-end RB2, which is why we have him ranked here. Down at number 20, we have Miles Sanders, and he gets to go on the road to Dallas. Now, the Dallas Cowboys are only allowing a little more than 73 rushing yards a game, so that's where the concern is and why I have him a little bit lower, but I think Philadelphia wants to take some pressure off of Jalen Hurts, and Miles Sanders is going to be the one getting touches for this team. All the way up at number 21, I have Chase Edmonds, and that is simply because this matchup is too good to ignore. Now, he also is getting 15.5 carries a game, and so you love the touches that he's seeing in this offense. There is some concern for James Conner because Conner is getting 12 carries a game, but Conner only 8 carries in week 2, and so they're starting to maybe hand a little bit more of that workload onto Chase Edmonds, and I think if he can see the kind of volume he did last week, this could be a surprise, huge day for him. At number 22 on this list, I have DeAndre Swift. He goes against a tough Baltimore run defense. However, I like Swift because of the volume. He's got 31 touches in 2 weeks, and although Baltimore is allowing just 72 yards rushing a game, I think Swift sees some work in the passing game, which you like to see. I think that boosts his value and is enough to put him there. At 23, Myles Gaskin. Now, you're a little bit concerned, right, because of that quarterback situation. I think Miami, though, is going to lean heavily on Gaskin, and while he may not have a great day, I think he has a safe floor, although the game flow could get bad for him, and so that's where that concern comes from. Down at number 24, I have Kareem Hunt. We talked about the matchup with Chicago when we touched on Nick Chubb. I want to see more touches consistently for Kareem Hunt. He's getting less than 10 carries a game, so that's concerning, but he does have touchdown upside in this offense, and I think he's a fine low-end RB2 start against the Bears. Rounding out the top 25, I have Kenyon Drake. He gets Miami this week. You like that matchup. You like even more that it looks like Josh Jacobs is going to be sitting and injured for this game. He could surprise in that case because Miami's defense against the run, bottom 5. So he could really ball out in some position here where no one really is expecting it. So we now start to move to kind of that high-end flex range. At number 26, we have Mike Davis. He goes on the road against the Giants. The things I love about Mike Davis are his touches. He's averaging 17 touches a game, and you don't hate this Giants defense. However, some concern because of Cordero Patterson, specifically those 2 touchdowns that he took last week, and his big playability could potentially vulture some work from Davis. I still think that Mike Davis could have a solid day, and I like him in this matchup. At number 27, I have the San Francisco 49ers backfield, and we're not exactly sure what that looks like just yet. Elijah Mitchell is questionable. J. Michael Hasty could slide in. Whatever is the situation, keep an eye on it because Green Bay has a bottom 5 rushing defense. So you love this matchup. You know they're going to want to rely on it to take the ball away from Jimmy and lower the opportunities for turnovers. And so I think if Mitchell ends up being out, I really like Hasty. If Mitchell plays, I would obviously prefer him over Hasty, but you do want a piece of this 49ers running game for high-end flex consideration. We move to the Denver Broncos backfield for number 28, and I have Javonte Williams just slightly ahead of Melvin Gordon III here. Now, they do play the New York Jets at home. Like Williams just a little bit more, but I'm comfortable really as either of them as a lower-end flex play this week. The volume for both of these guys is fine, and they want to pound the rock. At number 29, it's James White. He gets New Orleans. He's averaging 10 touches a game, so you like the volume. That could go up considering how successful and productive he's been so far. He's also seeing heavy usage in the passing game, and you love that for PPR leagues. At 30, we have Devin Singletary. He gets Washington. Now, Singletary hasn't looked spectacular, but he is getting 12 carries a game. He has 5 receptions on the season. You'd love to see him do a little bit more with those receptions because he's just turned them into 17 yards, but the targets are nice. The Washington football team is giving up over 125 yards rushing a game on the ground, so you don't hate this matchup. If we move to 31 now, we see the Tampa Bay backfield make their appearance, and that's between Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones II. And honestly, right now, guys, it's not a competition. Fournette is easily the preferred option. He is out-snapping Jones on the season so far. 32 for Jones, 73 for Fournette. I think Fournette is a solid RB3 with some touchdown upside. We're going to move now to 32, and that's going to be Tony Pollard, who had an awesome week last week with 13 carries for 140 yards against the Chargers. Pollard is seeing enough touches to warrant low-end flex consideration. Rounding out this list, we have the other running back in Detroit in Jamal Williams. We talked about the tough matchup against Baltimore. However, Williams does have 27 touches in 2 weeks, so we do like that volume. Now, I still think he's the best bet to bench right now, but if you're desperate, you could do worse in a flex position than Jamal Williams. A few notable omissions from the list. Nyheim Hines, he gets Tennessee. We talked about Jonathan Taylor and how much we loved him this week. I just don't like that he only had 2 touches last week. Super concerning. I have no confidence as we move into week 3 for him. And then finally, the Jets backfield, guys. I don't like either of them against a top 5 Denver rush defense. I think that it is super risky to play. We also don't know exactly how those touches are going to be divvied up. I am avoiding that backfield completely for now. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. I hope I was some help to you as I ran down this list. If you have any questions, if you're teetering between a player or another, please shoot those questions down below. I'd love to get back with you and answer any questions. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate your support. This is Relentless Press. I'm your host, Abria Mopats. We'll see you next time.